having him on. But I teased before the break, Ohio State and Maryland is such an interesting game to me because Maryland is 5-0. Mike Loxley's had a couple of good wins since he's been at Maryland, but he has yet to get that signature Big Ten one where he takes off, one of the crown jewels, which would be Ohio State, a good Michigan team, or Penn State. And he has an opportunity to do that for all those this year. Like getting them when they're good, I'm not going to pretend like if you're a Maryland fan, you're watching, say, oh, he beat Penn State a couple years ago. Like I'm talking about beating one of those teams when you're good and they're good. That kind of a win. And he has built Maryland up to something they have not been in a long time. They are very, very good on offense. And look, to be quite honest with you, I know they haven't played the teeth of their schedule yet, but the most points they've given up a game this year is 20. And so they've given up 6, 20, 14, 9, and 17. Now, they have not played an offense that I would tell you is good.
They've not played a team that I think could argue is good.
No. But they are, and they're beating those teams. If you're a good team, you should beat those teams how they're beating those teams. You should beat Indiana 44-17. If you think you're as good as you are, they went out and did that and won by 27 points against Indiana. They won by 22 on the road at Michigan State. Michigan State's not good, but they went and made them feel even worse. That's what you should do. Now, look, everybody's going to get their times where a team that's not quite as good as you puts a scare into you.
Yeah.
You're not going to throw 12 no-hitters in a row, right? I mean, that's just impossible. But this one against Ohio State that's a key moment for them in time, I think. That this is an Ohio State team that's really physical and good, and they've got stars. They have a freshman quarterback, which is probably the one true spot where you say that Maryland has an advantage. But Maryland has a ton of really good wide receivers. They score a bunch of points. Tailua Tagovailoa is experienced. He's a big playmaker. I think.
Is he the better quarterback in this matchup?
Right now he is.
That's my big question.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge edge to have going in to the horseshoe.
Yeah. And look, I would say if you just, shot the, sodium amytal into Ryan Day and put him up on the lie detector and said, look, who would you rather have tomorrow? Not long-term. Kyle McCord might wind up being fantastic. He might wind up being really good in one of those classic Ohio State, and Ryan Day knows how to pick them. I mean,
yeah, he might be the next Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, he didn't actually play at Ohio State.
Well, look, you got C.J. Stroud and Josh Fields in the top 10. Yeah. So, Ryan Day, and he coached Joe Burrow for a bit. So,
I know, I'm just talking some mess.
He's rolling along there. So, yeah, Kyle McCord. But when you're talking about today, if you just put on, all cards on the table today, I guarantee you would say he would take Tailua Tagovailoa. Just like I think that most teams in the Big 12, if you said today, a healthy Jalen Daniels or the guy you got, just for this season, the game today, most of them would say, yeah, give me Jalen Daniels right now. Give me Jalen. And no offense to Quinn Ewers, he's been playing great, but give me Jalen Daniels with what Texas has got going on. Holy cow, that's a fun team to watch. So that's kind of how not everything works out that way, but yeah, I do think Maryland has I wouldn't call it a distinct quarterback advantage, but right now, yes, I think that's one of the things that will be in their favor. And Ohio State's been playing better on defense, but this is an offense that will truly, truly test them for the first time really this year, because if you look at who Ohio State played, Notre Dame is a very good team, but they're not prolific on offense. They've played Indiana, Youngstown State, Western Kentucky, that's no real match for them. And then the battle they had with Notre Dame a couple weeks ago before the bye. So Ohio State hasn't played anybody like Maryland offensively yet. I mean, they've played a good team like Notre Dame, but they haven't played anybody that can be as prolific as Maryland is today. So that one, that's why I'm just kind of interested in that one and how it'll go. Not picking Maryland to win, but I'm telling you, that one could get interesting because, again, if you're Mike Locksley, like, this is a good chance. Go get that. Go take a crown jewel.
How does that game have to go for Maryland to, like, how does the first half have to go for them to feel good? And
I think they got to score 21 points in the first half.
Yeah.
I think they've got to do like 21 or more, which they're very capable of doing. But I think for them, they've got to make that game like it was. Look, last year they're right in it until the end and then had a turnover, scoop and score kind of a thing that made that game look different. So if they need it to go like it did last year, but just not make those mistakes, it needs to be a shootout, and they need to be prolific like they have been. Make Ohio State have to think we've got to score a touchdown on every possession.
Yeah.
Or we're going to be in it in the fourth quarter. Georgia and Kentucky. I would put Georgia on higher upset alert had they not already been terrified by Auburn last week. An Auburn team that's worse than this Kentucky team right now. But that team put a charge into them. And so
what did South Carolina do the week before, though?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, is this a Georgia team that can get terrified into starting to blow people out, or is this just who they are? Damn good, but they have to grind out every game, and someone will trip them up eventually.
Well, yeah, look, and they don't have the same kind of guys on the outside that they had before. They don't have the same kind of playmakers they did outside of Brock Bowers, who is, just ridiculous. And, they figured out 100 different ways to give him the ball, and it's probably not enough. Like, you could you could just sit a guy in the room and be like, listen, your job is to think up different ways that we haven't thought of to give Brock Bowers the ball. And then don't come out until you've got 10, here you go. And they have been very creative with him and will continue to be creative with him. But I do wonder, do they have the guys that can make you jump out where they can make, 4 big plays in a row. And then a game that was 17-13 is all of a sudden, 35-13 or 34-13. And you're like, I don't know how this happened. We were fine. And now that I don't think they're that team this year at all. But look, Kentucky can make big plays. Ray Davis was a great get from Vanderbilt. Great get. Big play running back. Devin Leary is a quarterback who can make big plays, and I think is starting to settle in a little bit to a comfort level there at Kentucky. NC State missed him terribly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I had to look it up here, but Georgia is 1-4 against the spread. And they have I think currently 14.5-point spread according to ESPN. So I think that's something to watch, Paul.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be terrible against the spread all year, honestly.
Yeah. Well, they're not those guys right now. They could still very well go and win the national championship because it's just about winning each one.
I'm not doubting that.
But are they going to do it? Are they going to beat somebody 65-7 in the national championship game and, look like they weren't even going as fast as they could go?
I think TCU is worse than last year and would fare better against Georgia this year.
Probably. Yeah, probably. I wouldn't doubt that, that 65-7 game. It was just such a butt kicking. And it did look at times to me like they're only really going 90% right now. If they win 100%, this game would be 100-7. There is something that was lit under them. Of course it was bogus. Nobody believed that we could do this. No. I don't know if anybody believed you could do this. That was record setting, but yeah, that they're not those guys anymore. And earlier we talked to David Nuno. If you weren't on the show, David Nuno from TexAgs.com said, look, the SEC, like everybody in general, just doesn't, there's nobody that looks Georgia scary, old school Bama scary, Trevor Lawrence and T. Higgins Clemson scary, where it can get 0-60 in a hurry. There's just not anybody out there like that. There's teams that look like they're they're starting to scratch that surface or could, but haven't necessarily done it yet. And that's due in large part because the transfer portal has changed the way that we have to look at everything in college football. We had a lot of differences in our picks in these two games, Jack, across the board, everybody. Wazoo and UCLA and LSU and Mizzou.
Yep.
I still think Mizzou can't score enough to get LSU, but LSU...
I would not agree, even though I picked LSU.
Yeah.
I have more faith in Kansas State's defense, and they went and put up enough. Now, is LSU's offense going to be slowed down by Mizzou? I think that's honestly the bigger question.
Yeah. Kansas State was a 30-27 game. Memphis was 34-27. Vanderbilt 38-21. So that's their last three. Yeah, I mean that's why I think that LSU, is sitting in a good spot here. But their whole season, there's nobody on the rest of their schedule though that they won't fear outside of that, whatever the Georgia State at the end of scoring more points than they normally do. They even have Army in the middle of the year, LSU does. And that's a nightmare because you have to stop, drill down, and prepare for it. They haven't shown any capacity to stop anything. Now, maybe they're better at stopping the run than they have been against the pass, but I don't know. They're not good at getting in front of people and stopping them from going where they want to go. And Army's going to take them, kind of out of their rhythm a little bit, and they've got that game in 3 weeks. So there's nobody on the rest of their schedule that outside of Georgia State that they don't have to fear. If you average 29 points a game, you're probably going to score 39 against FSU or LSU, the way their defense is playing right now. So Mizzou probably thinks it's got a couple more touchdowns in it, just the way that LSU's defense has been playing so far. Wazoo and UCLA is interesting. UCLA, a much better defensive team than an offensive team to this point in the season. Granted, they've been playing with a true freshman quarterback. DJ Moore is really, really, really talented. Dante Moore. DJ Moore exploded last night in the Bears game. Made Justin Fields look like a superstar against the Commanders. But Dante Moore is really good, but he's a true freshman, and so they're a little limited by that. Lost that game to Utah. I'm just such a big Cam Ward fan, and how he's gotten better year to year. Yeah, I think they're going to win this one. I think it'll probably be tight, I think, but I wouldn't be surprised if Washington State went in and beat them by 2 scores or more. I really wouldn't, just because of how they get when they're hot. When Washington State is hot, they can really, really put you behind the 8 ball. And Cam Ward, some of the things you'd watch him last year and he'd make these great athletic plays, and then you're like, man, that was sloppy right after that, was trusting his athleticism too much. He's really, kind of honed his abilities very well to where you just don't see those things anymore. And Ben Arbuckle, the offensive coordinator there, has done such a great job in, wrangling him in and making him better. So, Jack, we have good news, potentially. We have Happy Jack for maybe a minute.
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay. All right. Anyway. All right. Well, I'm glad I'm acknowledging your text. I'm glad to see that. We'll keep that a secret.
Working on some tech stuff behind the scenes, and we've crossed one more hurdle.
Yes.
That's about all.
Yeah, that's it. We're one step closer. So let's go back in the chat. Paxton, Missouri wins, put money on it. Paul Kelly, take Missouri and the points. Ooh. I don't know. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to go there in Mizzou. Although Eli Drinkwitz certainly did get his first big win against Kansas State. So maybe they're playing with a confidence that they haven't had before. So, all right. Paxton says, take Mizzou and the points. Glad I'm not a betting man.
I don't think it's a bad bet.
All right. I don't know.
I've got this feeling that it's going to be LSU, but I don't think it's a bad bet.
No, I almost don't if they lose this game, we're not putting them in the pick 'em again. I'm telling you right now, if they lose to Mizzou, I'm making the executive decision as the pick'em commissioner. They're not going in. We only pick 5 games a week. There's plenty of other teams. I'll pick Boston College, Sonoma State. I don't care. We're not going to ride the LSU. Will they tackle someone this week train anymore?